Good morning, everyone. I welcome you all to today's episode of Prerna, which is the inspirational, motivational talk segment of the Indian Menopause Society's series of webinars. And today is the grand finale of Prerna for this academic year. And without much ado, I would now like to invite Dr. Neerja Chawla, who's the founder chair of the Digital Education Committee of IMS and the convener of Prerna, to carry forward the program. Neerja, ma'am, over to you.
Hi everyone, good morning. So welcome to Prerna 16 and this is end of season 1. We are hoping that it will continue on and on because it has garnered a really high popularity rating, and this is the brainchild of the current president and the Secretary General of the Indian Menopause Society, Dr. Pushpa Sethi, and Dr. Aarti Gupta. So it consists, like Asna said, of a motivational talk and one very small segment of a few exercises which are very practical. So they are actually demos. So without any further ado, I'd like to invite our first faculty, Superna Yamuna Chopra, and she's a well-being and a life coach and a Heal Your Life workshop leader. Heal Your Life as in Louise Hay's Heal Your Life. She's a workshop leader and a yoga therapist. In Suparna's words, she thinks of herself as an eternal seeker and an eternal student of life. For 18 years, Suparna has been in the corporate life in the advertising field and has been highly successful, yet she had a feeling of something missing. She calls it a divine discontent. So she stumbled upon yoga out of curiosity and then went on to get certified as a yoga teacher from the world-renowned international Sivananda Yoga Vedanta Ashram in Kerala. And simultaneously, she is licensed as a workshop leader for Heal Your Life programs. And she has now been teaching yoga and teaching people to love themselves just the way they are. She's also currently undergoing an intensive certification as a holistic life coach with the world acclaimed author Alan Cohen, and she is conducting workshops in India and abroad. We are very honored to have her here with us today. And by now, we all know that feelings of resentment, anger, conflict, they can lead to dis-ease. So what we wanted to know from Suparna is how can we forgive others so that I may heal? So over to you, Suparna.
So thank you, Neerja, for this very generous introduction. Just a minor correction. I'm already a certified life coach. I do life coaching one-on-one sessions besides workshops and etc. So when Neerja approached me about 10 days back about this forum, and she says, you have 30 minutes. So I said, forgiveness is such a vast, such a deep subject, and I usually do 2-day full workshops, 2 full-day workshops just teaching forgiveness, and it's that kind of subject which requires that kind of time. So it was a bit of a challenge that in 30 minutes how can I do justice to the slot. Also forgiveness, for most of us, at least I can say for myself, it's a very it can be a very messy, a very uncomfortable, a very sticky kind of area. And that's why a lot of us, we just keep shoving it under the carpet because it works, so just put it under the carpet and pretend everything is okay. But that muck keeps getting collected, that garbage keeps getting collected under, and then one day it just sort of boom, there's a outburst, either a verbal outburst, or it could be a health challenge. And I'll spend just a moment later as to how forgiveness is also, since all of you are doctors, how it's so linked to our health also. So it's not just forgiveness for relationships or all of that. It has a very deep connection, that mind-body connection that we speak about. Forgiveness is a very large one, and it impacts our health in a state of unforgiveness, impacts our health in a very negative way. I wish I could spend a little more time on that. And for me, very honestly, in my journey over the last 19 years after I left corporate life, I think forgiveness has been the hardest lesson to learn. And I think a lot of us will relate to what I'm saying. It's the hardest lesson. And yet, until we learn this lesson, there is nothing. There is no peace of mind. There is no happiness. There's no joy. You always constantly feel stuck, like it's like you're carrying a heavy load. And sometimes, it just doesn't let you breathe. So, what is it that you want that forgiveness cannot give? You want peace of mind, forgiveness will give you that. You want a feeling of joy, forgiveness will give you that. You want better relationships, the answer, the key is forgiveness. You want better health, more vibrant health, forgiveness is. So it is really the key to every aspect of our life. It's a key to freedom, if I can say that. So before I delve a little deeper, I usually start all my sessions with a little short, a moment of prayer and intention, because it's really important to set an intention before every meeting, so that whatever we absorb after that, it gets received well. So I'm going to just invite everyone to just keep your eyes softly closed and try and be as comfortable in your seated space wherever you're sitting. Just make sure that you're relaxed and you're not tense. Your feet are firmly in contact with the ground, so you feel a little grounded. You soften the shoulders, you soften the neck, soften the facial muscles, soften the forehead and the scalp. The scalp carries a lot of stress, so consciously release it. And then slowly bring your awareness to your breath. Simply observe the breath moving in and out of your body easily and effortlessly. Take a few moments to just arrive at your breath, settling in it, and finding peace and comfort in your own breath. Stay present to your breath. Just watch it moving in and out without changing it in any way, just your natural way of breathing. And with each breath, we get the opportunity to recharge, to come back to the present moment. And with each exhalation, we get the opportunity to release anything that feels heavy, dense. With each exhalation, try to consciously release anything that's not serving you well at this moment. Releasing the past, all the hurts and resentments, the guilt that we carry. And also with each exhalation, releasing the future and all the anxiety about the future. Arriving at this moment, at this present moment, which is the only one that matters, which is the only one that is assured. And now bring your awareness to this wonderful gathering of people today, of like-minded people, knowing that this is a safe place, a sacred space, and everyone has been guided to be here. It's not random, it's not an accident that we're all here today. There is wisdom, guidance, and inspiration for each one of us today. Remember that none of us have perfect lives. We all are dealing with some issue or the other, some challenge. And we may be carrying some heaviness from the past. It could be a past hurt, a grievance, a resentment. It may be guilt, regret, or even self-loathing. Any kind of baggage that we may have been carrying for a lifetime. And we're all seeking some guidance, some wisdom, some release, some relief. So today, let's make an intention to hand over whatever heaviness that we're carrying from the past to the altar of God, asking for the divine hand to take over and help us. We hand over our judgment about others. We hand over our bitterness, our resentments. We hand over our guilt and regret about the past. We hand over all our difficult relationships over to God. We trust that whatever we place in front of the altar of God gets altered then. Let us remember that only the love that we gave in the past and what we received in the past, everything else is a hallucination, it's an illusion. It's my deep intention and prayer that your hearts open today and you experience some shift in your mind, in the way you see things, in the way you see your relationships, that something within you stirs and moves. It's my intention that each one of us gets some insight, some blessing today that will make your life a little more lighter, more easier, more freer. And so it is. Take a few moments, and when you're ready, you can open your eyes, bring your awareness back to the space. So, coming back to this very deep, profound topic of forgiveness. So, let me just share with you, like when I was growing up, and I think a lot of you in my age group, we learn a lot of things from our parents, from teachers, from, authority figures around us. And for me personally, the way I learned forgiveness when I was growing up, that's I call that the traditional way of forgiveness, of, knowing what forgiveness is. It's like, somebody wronged you in some way and you said, okay, I'm forgiving the person because I'm a bigger person. It's like, maine maaf kar diya kind of a thing. So you're coming from a higher place, that I'm the bigger person, I'm more noble, I'm more spiritual, so I've forgiven that person. Okay. But that's really not very authentic forgiveness, and a lot of us learned it like that. It sounds okay, but deep within we're still holding on to some stuff from the past. Also, we're holding the other person in judgment. When we say that I'm the bigger person, or I'm forgiving you, it comes from a place of ego. It comes from a place that you messed up, and so you did wrong and I'm forgiving you, right? So it's kind of not really authentic, this kind of forgiveness. Okay, because still you're carrying this, again, there's ego involved, there's judgment involved, you're still judging the person. Whereas the true authentic forgiveness is that fine, stuff happened. Okay, things happen, we are wrong, people do terrible things, but who's suffering? The fact, if we carry this on and we hold on to our resentments, the other person may not even know that he or she may have wronged us. The other person may be just having fun, in Goa or just whatever, and we are the ones who are suffering. We're carrying that heavy baggage with us, which just blocks every area of our life. So it's really about, so authentic forgiveness, it means that, okay, things happen, I was wrong, but I don't wish to be a victim any longer, and I wish to claim my freedom back, because I'm still stuck with that person, I'm still stuck with that situation, that story that happened. So I want to just free myself from that. I want to claim my power back from that person, that situation. Otherwise, who suffers? I suffer. So here, forgiveness is really about, it's about giving a gift to yourself. It's about saying, I matter. Okay, I value myself, I honor myself enough to say that, I'm willing to let go of it. Never mind, the person may have wronged me, but for my own peace of mind, for my own happiness, for my own better health, I'm willing to give it up. I'm willing to quit being a victim any longer, and I'm willing to take the power back from that situation, from that person, from whatever happened. Okay, now this doesn't mean, a lot of people may say that, oh, that means I'm letting the other person off the hook, right? It means that I'm condoning what happened. So forgiveness is not equal to condoning. I just want to clarify that. A lot of people mistake that, no, that person has to be punished. I can't let that person go. That person can't be left off the hook. But guess what? You're equally in that prison, and I call it the prison of self-righteous resentment, that we continue to stay in the prison, we continue to suffer on every aspect of our lives, and we continue to stay stuck. Okay. And so it's really forgiveness for our own self. It's not about the other person. It's about our freedom. It's about our peace of mind. It's about our happiness. So the moment you shift that perspective, that it's not about the other person may not even know that you have forgiven that person, because forgiveness happens actually not so overtly, it happens in your own heart. The other person may not even know. Sometimes, the other person is dead and gone. It could be a parent who you're still holding on to, and that parent is gone and you continue to suffer. And yet, you can offer that forgiveness in your heart by just saying, I'm willing to release you. You were doing the best you could, and I'm willing to set you free. Because in setting the other person free, you're actually setting your own self free. It's like, for me, in my journey of forgiveness and this work that I do, there are 2-3 metaphors which really, they were game changers for me. One was that one of my teachers, my coaches, my mentors, he told me that, forgiveness is like, it's like, you're the jailer. Okay, you're sitting outside the prison, trying to guard the other person from escaping, that the other person, the prisoner should not escape. So you're the jailer sitting, or the warden sitting outside. But guess what? You're equally tied to that prison, because you're stuck, just making sure he doesn't, he doesn't take off. So you're equally a prisoner. So when you let that person go, you set yourself free also. The other metaphor was that it's like forgiveness is like a state of unforgiveness, is like, you're drinking poison and you're expecting the other person to die. So, these 2-3 things were so strong and so powerful that, the penny dropped for me. And there was a big shift in just looking. And then there's another very beautiful one, which is, it's like, you have a handcuff and you have another person who has the same handcuff, the other thing. So you're both stuck to one handcuff. So basically, you're just lugging that person around for the rest of your life. You're lugging that situation around. So it's really that, so it's really forgiveness for your own self. It's not about anybody else. The person may not even know, care, but, you suffer. So you forgive that person in your heart. So that is a big shift from the traditional way of forgiving, that, oh, I'm the noble person, I'm the spiritual person, I'm the bigger person, and I give up. That's a little, if I can call it, a little phony, it's a little fake. But it's really, it happens in your heart. And that doesn't mean that and forgiveness also doesn't mean that, you have to then get into sort of engaging with that person. That's your choice. After you've really offered that authentic forgiveness, it's your choice if you want to engage with the person any longer. And I know in close relationships, that's not a choice. Sometimes, we're stuck in very close relationships where we don't have the option to just walk away. But in a lot of other relationships, you have the choice of setting boundaries. You can keep your distance. You can not engage in a manner that may hurt you. So that's up to you. So forgiveness doesn't mean that, you make up and go out to lunch with that person. It's really not about that. It's about saying that I suffer because I'm sitting in this prison of self-righteous resentment, and I'm willing to release the person now, because my peace of mind and my happiness is important, and I do not want to play victim any longer. That victimhood is fine. It gets us, and a lot of us, get stuck in our stories of victimhood, that this happened, that happened. But what happens after a while? Being a victim is, it doesn't work, because it's not helping you get out of that situation. You get deeper into a spiral, and you're hurting yourself. And there are some payoffs of being a victim, and some of the payoffs are that we get attention, people listen to our stories, we say the story again and again. We all have done it. I have done it, I know, and all of us have done it. Say the same story, get sympathy, get attention, get love from people. So it's a bit of a game, but it's not. It's really, getting into a very low vibration, energy. So just I'm going to be also taking a look at my notes so that I don't miss out anything in the in the short thing we have. So yeah, so the choice is yours. Like anytime that you find yourself in a situation where which is a conflicting situation, maybe a difficult relationship, just ask yourself one question, which I ask myself very often. Would I rather be right, or would I rather be happy? Because sometimes in this attempt of being right all the time, we just give up a lot. So that's a very crucial question to ask yourself, and I'm going to repeat it. Would I rather be right, or would I rather be happy? If you actually honestly answer that question, you'll know what to do. Sometimes, it's not so important to be right. It's not so important to be, oh, I'm the smart one, I know better, I won this. It's okay to just, your happiness and peace of mind is more important. Also, anytime in your life, if you feel stuck, and that stuckness could be in any area of your life, it doesn't have to be just relationships. You may have a health issue, you may have work issue, a money issue, a career issue, and of course a relationship issue. Anytime you find yourself stuck in any area of your life, ask yourself this question in your mind: who or what am I not willing to forgive? And your answer of stuckness or getting out of that stuckness will lie in that. And forgiveness, like I said, it's not easy. It can't be done over a 30-minute session, but I'm just sharing, how to really shift your perception about forgiveness. And it's really about yourself and your thing. And the other thing is that we keep hearing of forgiveness a lot, and gratitude and all these things, but forgiveness, you can't jump into it. You have to first, a lot of us are carrying a lot of anger. There are few very toxic emotions. There's anger, there's resentment, there's criticism, and there's guilt. So these are very strong emotions, toxic emotions that we carry, and sometimes they get lodged in our physical body, leading to physical symptoms and conditions as well. This is mind body connection that I'm referring to, that a lot of those emotions are actually creating our physical chronic problems also sometimes. But that's a separate topic, so I don't want to go over there. So what I'm saying is that it's really important for us to acknowledge that we are feeling angry, that we're feeling guilty about something in the past that we did or didn't do. We are feeling a lot of resentment and grievance against somebody. So it's really important to honor that and not bypass it. Because otherwise, if we bypass honoring those feelings and emotions, then what we end up doing is, then it ends up being a little phony, that forgiveness. So we really have to go through these difficult emotions, acknowledge them, honor them, and then move on to serious forgiveness. So if I can just ask you, if you have a journal and a pen or a paper, anything, I'm going to do a short exercise with you to really honor that and to acknowledge those feelings, emotions. That's really important before we jump into any forgiveness, which is a very, very big one. So if I can just ask you to just open a fresh sheet of paper and just be guided by what I'm going to be saying to you. So like I said, there are three very toxic emotions. There's resentment, anger, and guilt. Okay. And when growing up, we didn't really, sometimes we were not encouraged to express our emotions, and we were told that anger is not a good thing. So, we were all some of us grew up in families where we were not given that freedom to express ourselves, and especially express negative emotions like anger and resentment, because it was not considered good. Okay. But so therefore we ended up suppressing a lot of these things, because we feel that if we're spiritual, if we're good people, we can't be angry. But that's not true. That acknowledging that anger is really important. Of course, not getting into that spiral of it and not getting sucked into it, that's another thing. But to acknowledge it and to say that it's okay, I feel angry because of what happened, and then move on from there. So we're going to be doing a short exercise. So just keep your eyes softly closed for a few moments. Just take a few moments and just breathe, relax. And just now be willing to release the past and claim your freedom. And tell yourself in your mind that I'm ready and willing to become aware of any emotion that is keeping me stuck. That I'm willing to feel my emotion, express it, and then release it. Remember that no emotion is good or bad. They're just emotions. Now you can open your eyes and on that clean sheet of paper, just write down the heading, I feel guilty because. I feel guilty because, and then you have to complete the sentence in 3 different ways. Anything that comes to you spontaneously, do not overthink. Complete it 3 ways. I feel guilty because. And remember to be very spontaneous. Don't censor your response. Whatever comes immediately to you is the right answer, actually. And don't worry, we're not going to be sharing it. This is just for your own reflection. You don't have to share anything. So just be very honest about what you're saying. Once you've written that, maybe take a few more seconds. I feel guilty because. And once you finish that, just keep your eyes softly closed and wait for the others to finish. And just notice if you feel this guilt anywhere in your body while your eyes are closed and you're waiting for the others. Just feel if sometimes your body gives you messages. Now, you can open your eyes once again and on another sheet of paper, a fresh sheet, write, I feel angry or resentful towards X, whoever that person X is, because of Y, whatever the reason is. I feel angry or resentful towards X person because of Y. Completed in 3 ways. It could be 3 different people, or it could be the same person, but 3 different reasons. But whatever comes spontaneously to you. I feel angry, resentful towards X because of Y. Don't judge your reaction, your response. Remember that emotions don't make any sense. They're neither good or bad. After you're finished, whenever you do, take your time. You can keep your eyes softly closed and just breathe, relax, and notice if you feel this anger, this resentment in any part of your body. Sometimes, you feel it in your stomach, your throat. Just be aware if you're feeling this emotion of anger or resentment in any part of the body. And just breathe and relax. Now, once everyone is done, just breathe, relax. Know that you did this process for your own self so that you can let this emotion of guilt, anger, resentment leave your consciousness and leave your physical body. And remember that it's okay. You still may not be ready to forgive, and that's perfectly fine. You don't have to rush into forgiveness. Just a little willingness from you is important. That's all that's required. Take a few cleansing breaths. Breathe out all the anger that is stored in your body and in your heart and in your mind. Breathe it out. Breathe out all the resentment and the grievances you're holding. Take a couple of breaths, breathing out resentment, complaints, grievances. And then take a couple of breaths, breathing out the guilt that you may have been holding about the past and the regret that you may be holding in your physical body. Breathe it out. Now bring to your mind any one person or situation right now who you're holding a grievance against. And you just remember that the first person who comes into your mind is the right person. So don't overthink. And you may feel justified in holding the resentment and not letting go. Sometimes you do want to drop it, but it stays stuck inside you. You're just not willing to let it go. So today I just invite you to be a little willing. And remember, whenever you find yourself blocked or stuck, ask God for help. Remember that prayer is a medium of miracles. So let's pray together. Keep your eyes softly closed. Just absorb this prayer in your heart. I'm willing to see this person, this situation differently. Whoever that person was that came to your mind. Dear God, I need help. If I could do this on my own, I would. We know that holding on to thoughts of resentment and grievances is like holding on to poison. We know that this toxicity doesn't hurt them, but it's hurting us. It's deflecting miracles in our lives. We stay stuck. Yet we hold on to this so tight. Letting go seems so difficult. Dear God, each of us hands over to you the person, the people we find it hard to forgive. It could be someone who has transitioned, who's died. It could be you yourself. Anyone we're tempted to judge or defend against, I hand over to you. We know this doesn't mean that we put up with hurtful behavior. It doesn't mean that we can't disengage and create healthy boundaries with that person. Dear God, help us rise above our ego and our attack thoughts and see the innocence and the wholeness in this person. Help us see this person the way you would see him or her as a child of God. Help us see this person in his or her wholeness and divinity. Help us see their innocence and their goodness beyond their wrongdoing. Dear God, we know miracles occur naturally as expressions of love. And in these situations, help us look with eyes of love and compassion and forgiveness. Help us to forgive ourselves as you forgive us, dear God. Help us see our own innocence and the innocence of others, just the way you see each one of us. Dear God, post angels around the mind and hearts of everyone present here today to keep the thoughts of negativity, attack, and revenge at bay, and to fill our minds with love, light, and forgiveness, that we may be lifted above and beyond the drama of fear, attack, conflict, and defense, that we should know peace and war be no more. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Take a few moments. You can open your eyes. Bring your awareness to your room, to this space, to this Zoom space. So thank you so much for your patience. I tried to do my best in, let me see, 35 minutes or 40 I've taken. So Neerja, sorry, I've overshot by 5 minutes, but I just wanted it to be as valuable as possible. And like I said, it's really not doing justice. And I had so much more to share, but I tried to do my best in the limited time to give you some experience and at least, to get you thinking. Like I said, forgiveness doesn't happen over 30 minutes or not even sometimes over 30 days or 30 months. It could be a much longer process. And that's fine. That willingness is important. That's the first step. Just be, being willing to see it differently, be willing to see that person differently, be willing to say that, that he or she was doing the best that he or she could with the understanding awareness that they had, and so was I. So it's really softening that whole, that the hardness that we hang on to. So thanks a lot, everyone, for your patience and your presence. And I don't know if there's any time for any questions.
Yes,
Uh,
we definitely have time for questions because you finished well on time. And at the end of this session, all I can say is that I'm finding you more beautiful. It's a change of perception, I think, because you have been teaching us how to find people more beautiful and innocent. It was definitely not possible to do this session in this short time. And we do have time for questions, but I have my question for you.
yes.
Sometimes, if you accept somebody's wrongdoing,
Mm.
they don't know that you have been working on yourself and that you have truly, I don't know whether we truly accept it or not, but will they not see it as a sign of weakness?
Uh, Firstly, forgiveness is not acceptance of bad behavior or wrongdoing. Okay. It may be saying that, okay, that person did do me wrong. So it's not about being in denial. So, of course, people do terrible things, but it's our choice whether we want to carry on engaging with them at the same level as we were earlier, or for our own sake, for our own self-care, we can move back a little bit without aggression, without trying to teach them a lesson. But it's about saying that, okay, he or she did this, but I don't need to carry this on any further. I don't need to get stuck to it. And also, I don't need to put up with that bad behavior also by taking a step back or by setting a healthy boundary. Setting a healthy boundary for yourself in any relationship, even close relationships, mind you, even with your spouse or partner or children, is really important for the health of that relationship. And it's not about saying that, oh, I'm being cold or I'm being distant. It's just about saying that this is acceptable to me, making it clear, and this is not acceptable to me, and saying it with as much kindness and grace as we can. So, setting boundaries doesn't have to be an act of aggression. It can be a very soft, good act. And initially, people do get upset when you set a healthy boundary, saying that this is what's acceptable, not acceptable. They will get pissed off initially because they're used to you being a certain way, right? And the moment you set a healthy boundary, they'll initially will not like it because they've benefited from you having very weak boundaries. But the thing is, over a period of time, if you're consistent with that boundary that you've set, that this is what I'm going to put up with and this is what I'm not going to put up with, the the more you disciplined you are in carrying on with being consistent with that, over a period of time, trust me, they will accept it. Initially, there will be resistance when you try to set a healthy boundary. So I don't know whether that's answered your
Yeah.
question, but
I think setting up boundaries has been very liberating for me. But what I find is that despite your having set boundaries, the persons are repeat offenders. Then what do you
hmm.
think? Because they are
Uh,
serial killers, so to say. They
okay.
have not changed. So they will continue to actually, the minute you, even if you set a boundary, they will hurt you because you are allowing yourself to be hurt.
Yeah, I think it's not really not about them. Nature, the thing is, in this work, it's really about not trying to change other people because that's a waste of time. I'd rather use that energy in focusing on myself. So if you feel that people are still impinging on your space or breaking
Mm.
that boundary, you have to reflect within. It's really not about the other person. It's about, am I being consistent and am I being firm with that boundary, or there are times I give in and there are times I stick to the boundary, because the moment you are inconsistent, people jump in and take advantage. So one, we have to be aware, am I being consistent with the boundary? And number two, it all depends on, a lot of times, we end up in relationships saying yes. Okay. where inside, deep within, we don't want to be saying yes, but we end up saying yes because I think growing up, it's conditioning that, when we were little girls, when we were little children, we felt that, saying yes would win us approval of our parents. And, we would be good girls and we would get love and acceptance from others. So then that becomes a kind of a program running in our subconscious mind. So therefore, even as adults, we end up saying yes to people at the expense of our own self and at the expense of what, we want to be doing. So that's really important to really, before you jump into saying yes to anybody, because it's not their fault that but you're giving them maybe the leeway. I'm not sure about you, but I'm saying generally, sometimes you may be giving them the leeway of jumping the boundary because you yourself are not being firm, and you're not saying no when you really feel like saying no, and you're saying yes because you want to buy peace at any cost. You want to uh, be approved and accepted all the time. So therefore, a lot of times we give it. So I just feel, instead of focusing on the other person, we need to shift the focus back onto us.
Correct.
That
Many a
what am I
time,
doing?
yeah, many a times, most of the people who hurt us are our closest people. It could
Yeah.
be parents, spouse, and children. So, do you have any advice for us wherein we do not reach that stage where we have to go through all these exercises? Can we set boundaries even with small children? Because very often, what I find is that we forgive our children a lot of things, that they are having stress of exam, they are having stress of growing up, they are having stress of this and that, or their future careers. We forgive a lot of disrespect. Do you have any advice on how we can set boundaries even when they are very small, not
Hmm.
only with children, but when we as adults deal with our parents, and right in the beginning of our marriage with spouses? What advice would you give us?
Okay, so that actually, it's a fairly loaded question because there's lots, over there. I mean,
Yeah,
there's
there
not one
is.
thing, but there are three, four things. It's a
Yes.
pretty heavy question. So let
Yeah.
me just take it, bit by bit. So one is, like, uh, we are all born with, when we are born, we all have kind of, if I can call it, soul contracts with people. Okay. And a lot of times you find that's why a lot of times in my life, some of my closest relationships have been most challenging. However, because they've been challenging, and these were soul contracts I was born with, that these people had to come into my life. Okay. Because I had to learn a few lessons. So I actually attribute a lot of my growth as an individual, and even the kind of work I'm doing, because of the difficult relationships in my life. So number one, instead of berating them, and which I did for a long time, and I struggled in my most primary relationship, with my own spouse for a long, long time, and I'm being very honest about it, because I was trying to change him. I was trying to make him into, into the image I had in my mind. And the moment I took the focus back onto myself, and I did a lot of this work on myself, I actually became grateful for that difficult relationship in my life, because it made me stronger, it made me more resilient, it made me go on to the spiritual path and do whatever the work I'm doing. So I think my whole thing shifted, that this is a difficult person, this is a difficult relationship, but guess what? See how I'm growing out of it. So one is, I think gratitude, even in difficult relationships, is really, really important. I know it's difficult to do it, because you said, how can I be grateful? But there is strength happening. Even through that, you're learning lessons, because that person has come into your life not randomly. It's like I said, a soul contract you come with, and you're meant to learn that lesson. And until you learn the lesson of acceptance, of gratitude, or whatever, the same pattern will keep getting repeated. So your father's traits will come into your husband. You'll keep attracting similar kind of people, because you're meant to learn the lesson. So that's really important. And some of the most challenging relationships are really which lead to our growth as human beings. So
Yeah.
one is that 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 this person is actually helping me polish my own self.
Yeah.
That if that person is triggering me in any way, then there is something from maybe my conditioning, my childhood, that I'm getting triggered. For example, if my husband or my spouse or my partner, could be, or my boyfriend, whatever, is not appreciative of me, is not pampering me, is not giving me compliments, is not, like overtly kind of, there's no, demonstration of love in terms of. So therefore, if I came from a conditioning when as a child, I felt that I was, I was abandoned, or I was not given attention, I was not looked after. So that I'm still that inner child is still there, that I'm craving for that attention, I'm craving for that pampering, I'm craving for that love, which maybe I didn't get growing up because maybe my parents were too busy, or whatever. So therefore, that is my childhood wound that I'm carrying. And this person comes along, yeah, and he actually triggers those wounds, because those wounds are already there. So he comes, and just because he or she is not giving you that kind of time, attention, care, you that those wounds get triggered. So it's really an opportunity for us to acknowledge that this is the wound I have, that this need for appreciation, this need for all the time attention, because I craved it, I didn't get it, right? So therefore, that's an opportunity for us to work on ourselves, to say that this is the way, this is my inner child is responding like this, So I don't know, I mean, it's a very deep topic, but I don't know whether you understood what I was saying. It's a
Nitya, can
little...
I have
Yeah,
one
Shobha had
one
some.
Yes,
input?
Yeah.
yes, Shobha. Hi.
Yeah, before I hand over to Aarti for the next session, I must first say that this was really an awakening kind of, it was almost like a sermon. And I
Thank you.
think the underlying message is that we need to be more introspective, that we need to search our soul more and more and more to greater depths than we have ever done in order to heal. And I'm so thankful to Nidya that she thought of this and she brought you in, Superna, because it was great listening to you.
Thank you.
And I think it was especially appealing because of the prayers you brought in. And we all connected to the deity today. I had two very quick questions. And since there is constraint of time, I know that you will not be able to answer in detail. But what if there is the biggest person or the biggest culprit you find is you yourself?
Yes.
I mean, if I find that I have to forgive myself for something which I find it, I might find others also responsible, but if I find myself very critically responsible, I'm not able to come out of it.
Yeah. So Shobha, thanks a lot. I actually, in my longer workshop, I have a separate section on self-forgiveness, but today I couldn't cover it because there was shortage of time. But thanks a lot. It's I think the hardest person, Shobha, to forgive is you yourself, because we're so hard on ourselves. We just don't we berate ourselves, we just don't let ourselves off the hook, and that's the worst. And and what happens is, because we're not willing to forgive ourselves from something from the past that we did, and that guilt we're carrying on, and that guilt is such a terrible emotion. You guys are doctors. Guilt actually leads to, there's a mind body connection. Because of that guilt sits in our body. We want to punish ourselves because humne, we wronged, whatever we did, we want to punish ourselves, and that punishment at a metaphysical level creates pain in our body. So anytime if you have a patient who comes to you, and I'm sorry, I'm stepping into the mind body connection, but it's so deeply, a thing that extreme pain means that person is carrying a lot of guilt from the past. So I'm just telling you that's a connection. So that's the most important. So in situations like that, one is that to keep telling yourself, and that's what helps me, that I was doing the best I could then, with the understanding, awareness, and the knowledge I had then. And I'm willing to now, and I'm a wiser person now, and I'm willing to let myself off the hook now. So it's really making a declaration to yourself by writing it down, by saying it in your mind, and actually really saying that I was doing the best and I'm willing to forgive myself. That's the knowledge I had then, whenever then was. That's the awareness I had, but I'm wiser now, I'm stronger, I know better now, but I'm willing to now release myself. Because, you know, we keep talking about loving yourself. You know, it's a very, one of those things which everybody talks about nowadays. And that's a lot of the work I teach. But, you know, there can be no self-love, Shobha, without self-forgiveness. Because if you're carrying guilt and regret with you, that is such a heavy, toxic energy to carry, that with that energy, you can never love yourself. How can you? Because, you know, you're always feeling like a miserable cow. You know, I'm sorry to use that word, because you're always feeling, you know, oh my God, whatever, you're beating yourself up. How can you love yourself? You can keep saying, I love myself, but that's all bullshit. I'm using the word bullshit because it is bullshit. So there is no self-love without self-forgiveness, as simple as that. And it's not easy, but just, you know, it's like a child. If a child came to you and had done something wrong, what would you do? Would you slap the child? Would you scold the child? Would you beat up the child? You won't. I don't think any of us would. Similarly, accept that there's an inner child in us who may have messed up. Can we be as compassionate to that inner child as we would to our own kid? So why are we beating ourselves up? Just saying I was doing the best I could. And when you say that I was doing the best I could, then you're far more generous to say so-and-so was also doing the best that he or she could. Then that generosity of heart comes. It all has to begin, like I keep saying, it's not about the other person. That, you know, that generosity of spirit has to start from you. So I was doing the best I could, and I'm willing to forgive myself. I'm willing to be compassionate with myself. Sure, I messed up. We all do. But I'm willing to, like I would for a child, same way I'm willing to, you know, be compassionate to my inner child.
Yeah.
So
we have Aarti with us here today. Dr. Aarti Gupta is the Secretary General of our Indian Menopause Society. This is actually her brainchild. So I'd invite Aarti to say a few words.
Superna ji, I want to ask one question, very simple questions. Yes. Most of the time, for the peace of the house, हमारे घर में शांति रहे, इसके लिए हम बहुत सी चीजें एडजस्ट करते हैं और ऐसी चीजें भी एडजस्ट करते हैं जो हम नहीं करना चाहते, क्योंकि जैसा होता है ना, खुद को हमने अपने आप को माफ कर दें, वो हमने कर दिया. कई बार ऐसा होता है कि सामने वाले को हम उस लेवल तक माफ नहीं कर पाते, उन चीजों को अपने अंदर पूरा सोख नहीं कर पाते जो डे टू डे आपको ट्रिगर करती हैं. तो व्हाट शुड बी, उस समय हमें क्या करना चाहिए? उस शांति के लिए जो कर रहे हैं तो हमारी मानसिक शांति भंग होती है. तो हाउ टू मेक आउट द थिंग्स?
Okay, so I can share, you know, my experience with you, that one is that if you keep bottling just to keep peace, and I know peace is important, but just over a period of time, just to keep peace, if you just keep complying and keep saying yes to everybody, it's okay for a while. Temporary, you'll get peace. But, you know, on the long run, kya hota hai, Aarti? That resentment inside keeps building up. You know, it keeps building up, it keeps simmering, and then boom, there's an explosion. That explosion could be an outburst. It could even be a health condition, because sometimes when you're all the time, you know, just to keep peace, you're not stating what your truth or what you want to say. You're doing it at the expense of your own physical health, your own mental health, and your own emotional health.
Yes, definitely.
That's one. So it's not a great idea just to keep peace, to keep harboring stuff, because it's going to really, one fine day, there's going to be an outburst. So one is that, you know, that it's really important. We spoke about boundaries, you know, and it's not an easy one. That's a separate topic by itself, but it's good. And, you know, sometimes in establishing a boundary that this is what is acceptable to me and this is not, we get a little aggressive about it. We get a little, you know, whatever. There's a way of setting boundaries. You can do it with a certain amount of kindness, and initially the person may or may not like it, but over a period of time, they'll accept it. Mind, you know, just trust me, they will accept it, because it works for everybody. And the other thing is, you have to question yourself that why am I always putting up with this thing? You know, why am I always keeping quiet in a situation where I could be speaking up? And that's a good, and I'm just going to leave you with this thought, and if you want, we can have a separate offline conversation. That just go back and go back to your, a lot of these things, the roots lie in our childhood. That if we were taught, and a lot of us growing up were taught that little girls keep quiet, they just sit in one corner, they don't answer back, they don't do this, they don't do that, they sit like this, they don't climb trees. That is such poor conditioning, because that is, and as grown up adult women, they're still behaving like those little good girls who that is the thing. So we need to question ourselves, where is this coming from? It's not about other people. It's really the belief that we're carrying, that, to be a good wife, to be a good housewife, to be a good mother, to be a good doctor, this is the way we should be. So it's really, it's about reflecting. It's not about the other person. So always keep pulling your power back, that why am I behaving like this? Where is it coming from? And to say that I'm not that little girl any longer, maybe those beliefs were programmed into me then, but I am now capable of looking after myself. I'm not dependent on my parents any longer. And I'm willing to change that belief about myself, that I can state my truth. I can state, be honest about what I have in my mind. So it's really about, a lot of it is childhood conditioning. So just, I know it's a very vast area, but I hope I've answered your question.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Superna. It was such an awesome thing to have you with us. And of course, I realize that we need a bigger session. And we need to attend some of your workshops to actually get at the root of how to live our life. Because this is no way to live our life where we are unable to forgive anybody and we carry that dis-ease within us.
Absolutely. Dis-ease is a word. Dis-ease.
Yes, exactly. So thank you very much.